Now, John, as you can see around me, there's nothing left, no decor. I'm moving out of my house as Texas is moving to the SEC. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Segue.
Look at him. Look at him.
And as they move, I'm sure their recruiting's only going to get better in undoubtedly the best conference in America when it comes to recruiting football players. But right now, what you're seeing is teams like Baylor that have mostly, 3-star guys with a couple of 4 stars sprinkled in every season, a 5-star every once in a blue moon, that are beating Texas. And the disconnect, where is to you from a recruiting standpoint and looking at what's on the field, the disconnect for a team in Texas that can't seem to put it all together?
Yeah, I don't think the Longhorns are alone on that front, by the way. Look, talent is one thing. That's just the first thing, right? The spectrum is talent identification and then acquisition. So those boxes check and check, right, for Texas. But
Yeah.
then it's talent development. It is development. And when you go through multiple coaching staffs, scheme and philosophical changes, it is really hard to develop because you're developing in two different directions in 2 different years per se. So I do think that the radar and the spotlight is certainly on Texas. They need to have a good year, and you said when they go to the SEC they'll recruit even better. Maybe they've got to
Mm.
win. I think if there's a kid, if there is a recruit we talk to, and we talk to them all over the country, but if there's a recruit we talk to who is absolutely in tuned with the on-field product, it is an SEC recruit because guess what? No pro teams in those areas. Basketball is not as big of a deal. It's about college football in those areas. So you can be a low-level recruit and have a very clear understanding of what Auburn, Alabama, Florida look like every single year. So I do think that while geographically, yeah, that should enhance what Texas has been able to do from a talent acquisition standpoint. The lack of development. I mean, we just saw the draft, right? How many Longhorns, Drake? I know you talked about
That's weird. I'm a journalism major. I'm not very good at math. I can only count to zero, so it won't carry the. Oh, it
it.
is. It's zero. I can do that
Right.
one.
So that you think an SEC recruit in Birmingham or Atlanta is going to keep an eye on that? Of course they are. So
Yeah.
yes, we should assume that the talent pool will be bigger for Texas when they go to the SEC. But unless things are corrected on the field, it may not matter. They may be in that bottom tier in terms of actually putting together recruiting classes if things don't change on the field, which will probably mean another coaching change right when they get to the SEC, which is probably not ideal for anybody, over in Austin. So I do think the development and the lack thereof at Texas has been alarming and glaring. All the jokes about Texas being back, notwithstanding, they've been close. It's felt like things have trended in the right direction, only to be reset shortly thereafter.
Yeah.
So I do think, even though it's only year 2 under Sarkisian, they've got to make moves this year, and the talent they have offensively, there is really no excuse for Texas this year. Look at their receiving core; they got maybe the best running back in the country, and whoever wins the job is going to be a very talented quarterback. Maybe not experienced, but talented. Offensively, there's going to be no excuse, and that defense really has nowhere to go but up after what we saw on the field in Austin last year. So the developmental side has to change at Texas before they get to the SEC, because if not, they'll be a glorified version of Missouri 2.0 when they came into the SEC, where they had a couple nice runs, but kind of forgettable thereafter. And that's crazy to even associate with Texas, but I think it's entirely possible if things don't change on the field and as early as 2022.
John, I don't want to give Texas a bunch of flack. That's not really the point of the segment, and I love that we're kind of taking an objective look at what's going on and why it's going on. And one of the things that I've just always wondered is, man, as much as Texas may lose, it feels like they're still getting those 5-star recruits. Even when the
Sure.
NIL wasn't a thing, Texas was still recruiting at an elite level. Does that come from being the flagship school of Texas? Does it come from the brand that it's built? How is Texas still recruited so consistently, even without consistent success on the field?
Yeah, I've talked to many of their commits and targets, and there is just a belief that it can't stay down. I
Mm.
think the long-standing brand is upholding a lot of the perception around recruits with Texas at this point. They visit Austin and love the town and all that stuff. Sure, the coaching staff is strong in place from a recruiting standpoint, so I do think that gives them a little bit more benefit of the doubt. In terms of last year's class, which was a top 5, top 10 type of group, the best O-line class in the country. Why? That was the worst O-line in the Big 12 last year. And
Yeah.
kids were sold, hey, you can come in and play. And I don't know how many freshmen will start and or crack that rotation this fall, but it's going to be more than one or two, conservatively. So I do think that there's still an element of, yeah, the team's not doing as good, but I can play early, build my brand, play on TV. All those things still do apply at a high level at a program like a Texas. So I do think they still receive a lot of the benefit of the doubt relative to other programs that are winning at the same pace as Texas is on the field. You would think that they would take a little bit more of a step back. And I do think that's a little bit more of an indication on the staff that Sarkisian's put together, which again is a strong recruiting staff. We'll see how they develop and adjust going into this fall. But yeah, I mean, the appeal of Texas is still the appeal of Texas. Let's not make a mistake about that one.